Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. That is the Zarda playbook, Emery Hunt, and I'm Tyler Merkovich, and this is the 2009 Conference USA preview. East Division, let's take care of that first, where last year Skip Holtz's Pirates shocked the two Virginia schools early, beating Virginia Tech and Charlotte and West Virginia the first two games to open up the season. Struggled in conference, came back, won the East, won the title.
Well, they were the darlings of the country for about 2 weeks. Then it all fell apart 3 weeks straight when they lost those 3 games in a row. But they get Pinckney back. I like him as a quarterback. But I'm really in love with their offensive line, you know, with Allen, Palmer, Dowless, Scott, and Campbell, 3 seniors and a junior, 2 juniors on that offensive line.
5 returning offensive line with starting experience. Sean Allen, the senior. They bring in DeMonte Terry, JUCO running back, and John Williams is still there. As you mentioned, I love Patrick Pinckney also. Keep an eye on Dwayne Harris, who had 58 receptions, and they bring in a big tight end named Justin Jones, who's 6'8".
And one thing that they have solid skill players top to bottom with, you know, Pinckney, and then running back Brandon Jackson also is one guy to keep in mind.
16 returning starters back for ECU, 9-5 last year. Their defense led by a ball hawk in the secondary. Van Eskridge led with 4 interceptions. C.J. Wilson, the defensive end, had 10.5 sacks. He was first team all-conference, and they get their leading tackler back, Nick Johnson, with 102.
One thing I like about those, the Pirates, that they have a big defensive line. You look at Linval Joseph and Jay Ross, 2 big guys. C.J. Wilson is coming off, you know, a real good defense. He has 10.5 sacks too as well. He's coming off the edge. That's impressive. So their defensive line is real stout, and they have the best pass defense in the conference with your boy Eskridge.
At a conference, they have another tough one as they have to travel to West Virginia and North Carolina, but they get Virginia Tech at home. That's at a conference. In conference, they're at Tulsa, and they got to close the season versus Southern Miss.
Those are 2 tough games. That Tulsa game is going to be a good one. And closing at Southern Miss, that's a tough place to play. One of the toughest places to play in all of college football.
Southern Miss, led by Larry Fedora, the former offensive coordinator of Oklahoma State. They were 7-6 last year. They returned 19 starters. They lose a stud on defense, but what an incredible win it was over Troy in the last second last year in that bowl game. They get Austin Davis back, who had 3,100 plus yards through the air. This team should be interesting. They lost 4 games by a combined of 21 points, and they still went 7-6.
Historically, Southern Miss is always a tough team, and they're going to play every team on their schedule real tough, and it's going to go down to the wire. Like you mentioned, Austin Davis, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He is awesome as the quarterback. Damian
Fletcher, 2-time Conference USA Player of the Year, and one of the best wide receivers in the country, 6'6", 220 pounds plus. DeAndre Brown, only a sophomore. He was a first-team All-League player as a true freshman. Jonathan Massey, also a tight end. Weapons all galore for Fedora.
You look at DeAndre Brown, 1,100 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns. This guy is one of the top receivers in the country. Even as a sophomore, he is one of the best receivers I've seen in a long time.
6 yards per carry for Fletcher. Seems like he's been there forever. Will be very interesting with 5 returning starters with experience on the offensive line. Their offensive line, 192 yards per game last year, and they only let them 29 sacks.
They have the best offensive line in Conference USA.
Defensive side of the ball, Anthony Gray, 2nd team All-Conference, but they lose a big name to the draft, Gerald McRath, who was their leading tackler with 137 tackles. They also lose their 2nd leading tackler.
Well, one thing I do like about the secondary, they have, you know, safety Chico Hunter, safety Eddie Hicks, cornerback Andre Watson, and other cornerback C.J. Bailey. This is a good group of corners, you know, and they do have the big nose tackle Anthony Gray, 6 feet, 300 pounds. This is a real good defense. I know you say that every year about Southern Miss, but this is a really good defense. I like Southern Miss a lot.
Absolutely. I love them too. Fedora will get the offense going, experience offense. So much offense. It's going to be special to watch. Out of conference, they host Virginia, and they're at Kansas and at Louisville. Pretty decent for a Conference USA team.
This is a good schedule for Southern Miss. Look for them to run the tables.
At ECU, the last game of the season, it might decide the Eastern Division right there. George O'Leary, 15 returning starters at Central Florida, 4-8 last year, disappointing. 2 sophomores lead their offense, Rob Calabrese and Bryn Harvey, their lead rusher.
Those quarterbacks have to play better. Calabrese had a 39% completion percentage. You can't win like that. I'm sorry. There's no way you could slice that into a positive piece of pie. That's unacceptable. The offensive line is also a big question mark too. You look at the 2 freshmen and a sophomore starting with a quarterback that struggles. That could be a recipe for disaster in Central Florida.
Brian Waters, our leading receiver, returns. He had 14 yards per reception last year. Defensive side of the ball, got to start with Terrell Troop, first team Conference USA. He had 12.5 tackles for a loss. He's a force. Lawrence Young and Chance Henderson, linebackers that were all league, but an inexperienced secondary, which could be a problem. They also bring undersized linebacker in who is highly touted, Jonathan Davis, only 5'9", 200 pounds. Maybe they could play him in the backfield because the secondary, way inexperienced.
Well, their secondary will definitely take a step back this year after losing all those guys. Terrell Troop, 6'3", 315, a monster up front. This guy is a future NFL player. He is awesome up front. I like him a lot. And he led Conference USA with, we had 52 tackles as a defensive tackle. That's impressive.
Pretty good. Out of conference, the Knights host Buffalo and Miami. They're at Texas. And in conference, 2 really tough games at ECU and at Southern Miss.
But they're going to need that defense early and often. Good thing they returned 6 starters back. And they did okay against the run. A lot of those teams you just mentioned on that schedule love to run the football. They're going to have to play real well in order to win. But one game I do like is Samford. They get to face Terry Bowden. He's coming back and coaching, so that's going to be good. I'm good to see Samford picking up Terry Bowden, and that's going to be a good game to watch in Central Florida.
In studio for a while, now back on the sidelines. UAB had a 4-8 record last year, and 18 returning starters, 11 on offense, including Joe Webb. Get this, 1,200-plus yards rushing. Also get Rashad Slaughter, who had 4.5 yards per carry. Those are 2 seniors that are going to need to lead the way. Franchell Forrest, their go-to receiver.
Well, one thing about Joe Webb, he is an amazing runner. Problem is he plays quarterback. And unfortunately, he has to protect the ball. 13 interceptions last season. That has to improve in order for his team to move forward.
Experienced offensive line. Everyone returns. Neil Calloway is their head coach. Defensive side of the ball is where they need to make their mark if they want to make a move in CUSA. 4 returning defensive linemen with starting experience, plus 2 JUCOs they bring back, and they lose all-league defensive back Kevin Sanders, who had 7 picks last season.
Well, one thing I do like is they're going to start a freshman at middle linebacker, Daniel White, 6'2", 235, is a real big guy in the middle, and he has to be impressive if they're going to start him as a true freshman.
Schedule, what do you think about the Blazers?
I think the Blazers have a unique schedule where they can make some noise, but unfortunately, with the questions at quarterback, the inexperience at receivers, aside from Franchell Forrest, they're going to have some problems, and I don't think them finishing too well.